My name is Mason Nystrom. I'm a senior research analyst at Messari, and I'm happy to have you all here today at Consensus Foundation, this Q&A session with Flow. We're going to have a great discussion and have some awesome questions lined up today. So everyone also please welcome Weilei Yu, who's head of marketing at Flow. And Weilei, just to kind of set the stage, Flow has really taken off over the past, I would say, 6 months. Obviously, the flagship game NBA Topshot has surpassed over half a billion in secondary sales. But I'd like to kind of talk about Flow more broadly and discuss kind of where you're heading. So in that regard, Flow is kind of pitched as a scalable consumer application-ready blockchain. To date, Ethereum is in the DeFi category. It has 1 to 2 million users. How do you see Flow getting to 1 million users?
Thank you for having me, Mason, and great to be talking on this stage. Interesting question. So if I remember correctly, we actually surpassed 1 million users on Flow a while back, I think in April. We probably did not make a big announcement, so it was just like an internal milestone. But just to give some reference, NBA Topshot alone has slightly over 1 million registered users, and 500,000 of them actually made the transaction. So that's I guess the stats on the NBA, right? But on the Flow blockchain, we're seeing slightly over 1.5 million users to date, or accounts more specifically. That's also in addition to NBA Topshot, we're also seeing a lot of momentum on the overall Flow ecosystem, as you mentioned, and I think in the past few months has been great seeing a lot of project launching on Flow and receiving experiencing great momentum. Just to give you an example, right? For example, at the massively multiplayer game Chain Monster that had over 3,500 players just testing in their closed alpha, right? They have not even launched their beta live yet. And Vive NFT marketplace, which they did $2 million drop for single artists just a few months back. They have over 20,000 users in just 2 or 3 months from their launch. And they blocked the wallet, which is one of the main wallet on Flow. They have over 100,000 users. So we're seeing this momentum across the ecosystem, not just the flagship NBA Topshot application, and that's what excites me personally.
Awesome.
And,
Congrats on 1 million users. And I guess to kind of follow up that question. So you talked about NFT marketplaces, you talked about gaming. Are there any other sectors or consumer type applications that you're most excited to develop on Flow, or that you're most excited to see kind of to be developed by third-party developers?
So regarding that, we're currently seeing many teams across the Flow ecosystem building applications across various sectors, which I'm super grateful for, their interest, also their passion for being on top of Flow. We have the NBA Topshot, which has the sports, I guess, collectible category that's been proven to be pretty successful, and we have many applications or teams following that path, including the UFC that we're building internally, but also MotoGP that recently had a drop on Flow, by the Animoca brands. In addition to that, I can say we have probably across all sectors teams building application, or either launched or on the stage of building application across those sectors. For example, we have a project on the marketplaces side, both custodial and non-custodial, and then we have we have a white label storefront for dedicated drops. Imagine the celebrities or teams, right? They want to have the Shopify style dedicated storefront. We have music, where we're seeing a lot of interesting innovations, right, being tested right now. And also digital fashion. We have a project called Neuno, which is collaborating with some of the top high-end fashion houses, doing 3D wardrobe potentially. And then streaming side, where some teams are launching collectible moments from streamers' favorite or most popular clips, and then also gaming that I just mentioned, and Chain Monster, but also Dark Country that just finished their first ever land sale drop on Flow that was worth probably more than $500,000 successful drop just a few days ago. So a lot of exciting projects and categories.
Okay, very cool. And I mean, you mentioned music. You mentioned a white label kind of platform for Flow's own drops, and obviously NBA Topshot is a licensed partnership with the NBA. And so, how does Dapper and Flow more broadly think about their own internal IP versus third party IP and licensing, and how do you kind of see that progressing?
This is a great question, by the way. We get asked many times, and especially like even after we support a lot of ecosystem projects, right, with a successful launch, they often wonder like why we're willing to help them so much, and instead of us capturing all this value. And to be honest, to be very direct, like Dapper Studio, which is like the I guess segment of the Dapper Labs that focuses on IP collaboration and building out like those experience like NBA Topshot and then on UFC and others. There's a very limited amount of application can build, right? Like all those top IP holders, global brands, they require actually a pretty lengthy collaboration timeline. Like imagine 1 to 2 years, and they require a lot of production and management, right? Imagine like NBA Topshot takes like 50 plus team members. So on that regard, like the overall Flow ecosystem is probably going to be 100, if not 1,000 times bigger than anything like NBA Dapper Studio can do alone. So that's why we're super interested in helping the ecosystem project succeed and then give like any support possible in terms of like ecosystem support, go-to-market strategy, and also like a global distribution. And also, I guess a fun fact is we are probably the largest source of referrals in terms of like IP brands and collaborators to other projects. So maybe that's something that people were not aware of.
Yeah, very cool. I know you mentioned Animoca Brands, and they have a large war chest of IP as well. So it's interesting to see you guys partnering with them, and I'm excited to see how kind of that plays out over time because they have their hands into stuff like the sandbox as well. So I'm excited to see how this all cross collaborates over the long run. I'd like to kind of pivot a little. I know that Flow has talked about launching FUSD, which is a stable coin that's going to be on Flow. And so I'd love to know what Flow's kind of plans are to either develop like their own DeFi applications, or what do you think FUSD will facilitate in terms of other developers being able to build on top of Flow?
So FUSD is a stablecoin for the entire Flow ecosystem, issued and backed by Primetrust, a US regulated company. So they are the issuer and also that guarantee the reserve, right? And once that's currently is available in testnet, where every developer can test, play with it, integrate in the application. And then when it's available mainnet, application marketplaces like wallet providers or fiat on-ramp services will be able to leverage the stablecoin to build an even more streamlined onboarding experience for their users. And I think that's the key idea behind FUSD. It's less about a pure DeFi play from our perspective, but more like another toolkit to allow ecosystem team to build like seamless user experience and to lower the mainstream adoption barrier.
Right.
So ideally, we can see like that path going forward.
Very cool. So just as a quick follow-up, you kind of potentially see FUSD being utilized in existing Flow consumer applications and stuff like that.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. And then I kind of just have one last question because I know we're running up on time, but attracting developers is one of, if not like the greatest challenge, but also strength of open source software. And I would love to know kind of Flow's strategy and game plan to attract the best developers to its platform, because that's kind of a very long-term determinant of growth and ecosystem health.
I cannot agree more. There wouldn't be a Flow ecosystem without our amazing developers. I'm proud to say like we have a great product that we're ready to share with the broader developer community around the world. So we are already seeing like a lot of developer activities across I guess within our community. with over 3,000 developers building or prototyping on testnet before launching on our mainnet. But that compared to the global open source community is just like tiny drop, right? So we have spent probably like the last few months, right? Like a big portion of our effort improving our developer onboarding, developer tooling, and also documentation. So our next stage of developer ecosystem growth is going to be focusing on scalable educational content, amplifying our global distribution, and building new developer engagement pipeline. So on that front, we are ramping up actually our internal hire to be able to tackle that challenge. And we're very excited, to see the results in next few months or like coming year.
Awesome. Sounds exciting. Well, I think that's all the questions we have time for today. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Weilei. Thank you, Consensus, and look forward to chatting with all you in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Mason. And thank you everyone for attending and joining us today.
Bye, everyone.